and the subordination of the rights of any one race to the overriding right of the human race. Our national flag belongs to all our citizens. Our national coat of arms with our national birds inscribed therein is the sacred trust of all our citizens. So it is today. Please, I urge you, let it always be so. Let us always be able to say with the psalmist, behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity.
As the citizens of an independent country, we must preserve the qualities we have developed in the testing period before independence. We must work even harder than in the past. The watchwords I have chosen for the nation are discipline, production, tolerance. I appeal to you to let them ever be your guide to conduct. If we do this, we will build a nation which can hold its head high and be accepted anywhere in the world, and which any other nation will be glad to welcome as a friend. As we march forward to our great day, let us do so as a united people, bridging all the differences of class, race, color, and creed. Let us make a living reality of our new motto. Together we aspire, together we achieve.
From Mafeking to Rio Claro to Guayaguayare, through the coconuts of Manzanilla to the fine sands of Queens Beach, this is your station on the Eastern Peninsula, Mayaro Radio, taking Mayaro to the world.
I die to try and help my nation, no quest for unification. Lord, it means a lot to me. Yes, everyone and their family. Free your hearts and our minds from these mental chains that we cannot see. We're blinded by money, power and greed, when we could just help to feed the ones who in need of a helping hand. It's hard to survive in this land. Yeah. These are the days when the signs of tomorrow will be the signs of today. These are the days when religion won't matter. In His name you'll have to pray. These are the days. These are the days. These are the days. For the ones who love me. I beg you touch, Lord, before it's too late, cause there's no turning back in front of your gate. Talk to the ones who are responsible. Let them know that their actions are despicable. Lord, let them know that you were the wrong, and what goes wrong comes back around. Destruction by man has taken a toll, causing history to be unfold. Who give them the right to take such action? The bottomless pit is where they belong. These are the days when the signs of tomorrow will be the signs of today. These are the days when religion won't matter. In His
From Mafeking to Rio Claro to Guayaguayare, through the coconuts of Manzanilla to the fine sands of Queens Beach, this is your station on the Eastern Peninsula, Mayaro Radio, taking Mayaro to the world.
Oh Lord, good Lord, everybody let me see you clap those hands. Come on and let me see you clap those hands. Everybody let me see you clap those hands. Come on and let me see you clap those hands. I'll tell you how it, tell you how it, I'll tell you how it, Lord, tell you how me. Every time I hear a police siren, I'm thinking this is God. Coming to take me to the next venue. Some of them are swinging at the shot. When I see a big truck in Port of Spain, thinking his arms are bliss. It's a big dump truck passing with red sand in it. Lord, I tell you how it. Tell you how it. I tell you how it. Lord, tell you how it. Everybody let me see you clap those hands. Come on and let me see you clap those hands. Everybody let me see you clap those hands. Come on and let me see you clap those hands. I be jumping on the road we try. Do with my woman on the right hand side. All my friends and them from outside. Who from north and who from south side. I be jumping with the man in the road. I'll call in me and it cold. When them girl them bumpers are roll. And them making bumpers to hold. Well anytime I go out and buy something, all I see is Juve. When them blue devils them bumper around in the block in the road to get paid. And when I see a big truck in Port of Spain, thinking it's drive on this. It's a big tough truck passing with red sand in it. Lord, I tell you how it. Tell you how it. I tell you how it. Lord, tell you how it. Everybody let me see you clap those hands. Come on and let me see you clap those hands. Everybody let me see you clap those hands. Come on and let me see you clap those hands. I tell you how it.
Good morning, Mayaro, and welcome to Seine Talk. Yes, listeners, today is January the 28th. Yes, the 28th of January 2023. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. So yes, every single where on the planet, we welcome you for the next 2 hours into Seine Talk, where we try to inform, educate with a touch of entertainment. Yes, Miaro Radio. And first of all, for those who did not know of the existence of Miaro Radio, you were somewhere under some rock somewhere on some planet outside of our galaxy. Last night at Parkview, Miaro Radio put on a show. And I know all of you that were there are sleeping now. But all reports coming in to the station at this time, incident-free, Miaro Radio mash up the place, fine, like Chili Bibi. And of course, everyone had a good time, safe. And that is the important thing. At events or anything whereby that name Miaro Radio is mentioned, we want to have the results coming out as incident-free, whereby persons would have enjoyed themselves with that Friday evening entertainment. Right off one time, listeners, we move into our dailies today. And yes, our dailies, sad to say that again, the front pages of our newspaper are covered with some not so nice things. However, it is the news, and we, of course, here share the information as it's one of our mantra that we are here to give information. So special good morning to all the persons in the southeastern part of TNT that is tuned in. Of course, we know we have our persons all the way up the Caribbean, in London, parts of Europe, as far as Australia, New Zealand, and even continent Africa. Good morning to our listeners, and we know the time difference is wow. Also, right across the 51 states of the United States, and special good morning going out to Los Angeles, California. All right? Of course, one of our number one listeners is there. I'm not sure if he has gotten up this morning again because the time difference. They are now 4 hours behind us. So Atlanta, oh my, Atlanta, Miami, all over the U.S., and of course, our listeners in Canada and both sides of Canada, Vancouver, and in Toronto, special good morning to you. So we're going to start off this morning by looking at our three main dailies. And of course, that's the Express, the Newsday, and the Guardian. And this morning on the front page of today's Express, double murder over land. The story is by Gassi Gonzalez on page 3. Double murder over land. Grandmom, they could kill me if they wanted. And after that, they can go to America for the rest because it have more. And if they killed them, they would get the land. Right? Picture here on the front page, grief-stricken Lynette Evangelist, the grandmother of Mitchell Evangelist, hugs a relative as the body of her grandson is removed from the scene of yesterday's double murder in Blanchie Shares. And also her story on page 3, body stuffed inside mud volcano down there at Icacus. So that's the front page of today's Express. All right, and also on the front page of today's Newsday, stick fighters threaten to boycott Gael. And of course, you know, in terms of the history of Trinidad and Tobago Carnival, stick fighting is one of the original forms of sports that took place around the carnival time from its inception. It's an art, and we know our community would have produced some of the top stick fighters in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. So, rest in peace, Mr. Felton Alfred, and of course, Mr. Nato Sylvester, some of the Trinidad and Tobago's top stick fighters. So on the front page, also of today's Newsday, missing woman tell cops she and baby are safe, and that story is on page 3 of today's Newsday. And also a picture, emotional, Hizrat Ali, 35, at his Freeport home Friday after leaving his girlfriend, Liana Ali, and her son, Malachi Ali, both reported missing on Wednesday, were confirmed as being safe by the police. All right, so that's on the front page of today's Newsday. And of course, the same situation that took place in Blanchie Shares. 2 men gunned down in Blanchie Shares, murders on the job. So, also on the front page of today's Guardian, listeners, crying shame, story on page 5, had artists upset at Soca Monarch demise. Says Marshall concert not to blame for issue. Also, the picture on the front page, jubilation. Members of the Petra House celebrates after winning the March Past competition at the San Fernando Central Secondary's annual sports day at the Naparima Ground, Lewis Street, San Fernando yesterday. All right, with their presentation entitled Avatar. All right, congratulations to San Fernando Central Secondary School. And the NLCB Lotto Plus jackpot stands at $5.5 million. And remember, if you don't have a ticket, you don't have a chance. Great. Please, people, remember Mayaro Radio and your host, just in case you win. Right? And oh my, that sad news that we sometimes touch, that thing that our citizens are becoming immune, and we hope that that's not the situation. And the murder count as it stands today in our beautiful Twin Island Republic stands at 48 according to today's Express and 47 according to today's Guardian. Right? One murder is too many murders. One murder is one murder too much in our beautiful Twin Island Republic. Right? So, of course, here on Seine Talk, we try to leave you also, as we deal with our new dailies, is the quote of the day. Wherever you go, no matter what the weather, always bring your own sunshine. And of course, I shall repeat, wherever you go, no matter the weather, always bring your own sunshine. So, listeners, wow, what a week here in Mearu. Ups and downs, starting all the way from last Sunday. Of course, we know with that tragic incident that took the lives of some young men in our community, and one of the spoils of village life is that we start off by making comments without information, without fact, and sometimes that comes across so ugly that it is not nice. All right. Many congratulations went out to the Mearu police on their swift and decisive actions. The results of those actions, of course, we know that any fatality involving the TTPS is investigated and a coroner's report is filed, and that takes time. So we let that process go ahead. And of course, it is also channeled by a senior officer who signs off on the investigation as it relates to any of those incidents. So we know in recent vintage, there have been an improvement in the way that these things are handled, so that at the end of the day, some kind of closure is given as it relates to same. So those who may be making comments without information, that is not such a good thing. We must understand that a loss of life is an extremely serious thing, and we'd ask that persons exercise empathy and put that front and center, and ask yourself, if you would lost a loved one, if you had lost a loved one, how would you feel? All right, so let's push as it relates for that love within that community and that really community spirit, because what can be stated in situations like this is that we as a community have to, bound to must, as we would say on the street, have to, bound to must, take some blame for our youngsters within our region. We must take some blame and some responsibility as it relates to same. So condolences go out to the family at this time, and I think the funeral of the youngsters tomorrow, and condolences go out to the family as it relates to such. Added to that, there's also reports of a number of robberies within our region here also. And of course, we are of the view of see something, say something in that drive by the TTPS, and in relation to the numbers that you can reach out to the TTPS and give that information on see something, say something. We are our brother's keeper, and our community, based on the fact that we would like to see that improvement and that growth within the community, one of the areas that we do not want to see growth is in terms of criminal activity and in the region here as a whole. Okay? And with that, it is so sad that Mearu, when persons think of it, and you think of that word coconut, how hard it is right now, listeners. Yes, how hard it is to get a dry coconut in Mearu. Serious thing. Serious thing. And, all right. Okay, that's another conversation for another time. Right. What is happening in Mearu? Again, it comes back to the same thing. Persons making comments without information, without clarity. And it's great that opportunities are there so that these can be clarified. So do not assume. Do not jump to conclusions without the facts. Make sure that you have the facts. You know, long time at school we said there's 3 sides to every story. There's my side, your side, and the truth. So let's try to get all the facts inside before we make general comments on anything. So good morning again to all. And we know that we are already deep within the carnival season, Carnival 2023, the mother of all carnivals. And the Lord Kitchener would have said, you know, what is carnival without a bacchanal? And however, we right here in our community have our own bacchanal, and nationally we have a number of bacchanals going on. So on Thursday, they would have announced the cancellation of the Soca Monarch competition, right? And the International Soca Monarch competition. So the ISM has been cancelled, and of course, some persons in some quarters are linking it to Marshall moving his show from Marshall Monday to now on Fantastic Friday, and stating that that has a serious impact on the cancellation of the show, while others, including the promoter and others, are saying that Marshall movement of his Marshall Monday to Friday has absolutely nothing to do with the cancellation of Soca Monarch. So that is for you to decide based on the facts. Some of the information coming out is that the Soca Monarch, which is private promoters, made requests to the state to the tune of $10 million. The state indicated that they would be able to give $3 million towards the show, together with some add-ons in terms of venue and constructions to the $3 million. The promoters stated that that funding would not be able to put out the production that is needed for a successful Soca Monarch. It have the prelims, it have the semifinals, and of course, in terms of putting on a show that is worthy. So, the question may be, is it that, you know, Marshall had a heads up, so he moved the show, or what? I don't know. We here at Saint Talk can't say. However, the promoters of the Soca Monarch said that Marshall's movement had nothing to do with the cancellation of the Soca Monarch. And I have yet to hear a statement coming out from Marshall's camp. However, there is nothing untowards in terms of any anything irregular or illegal, and it's free to put on the show. Made this application. The application has to be accepted, and that show would be, and that is Marshall's only show for Carnival 2023. For those of us, and of course our international listeners, would know that he would have sold out the Barclays Center right there in Brooklyn, yeah, off Atlantic Avenue there. So he would have sold out the Barclays Center. Yes, totally sold out. In fact, scalpers in New York made a field day because tickets were selling on the night of the show for 3 and 4 times the original price. So we know that his productions are out of this world, and of course, wherever you go. However, it has left a void in terms of young upcoming soca artists to make their mark, and you know, from that show, the International Soca Monarch, that's how a lot of our new artists get their bookings up the islands, North America, and Europe for the rest of Carnivals 2023. So there must be a way, and one of those, I think at the moment, is being looked at by the NCC in terms of hosting their own Soca Monarch situation for 2023 to give the youngsters at least a platform to kick off. So the season is tight. It came upon us. We're coming out of that pandemic. So I hope that persons are taking note as it relates to 2024, where we would structure as it relates to same. The Chutney Soca Monarch is fully on the go, and of course, we know, you know, that big truck all the persons in terms of the arena have already predicting that, of course, you don't drive no car again, you drive big truck. And where that big truck going, that combination with Ding Dong, we know that right now stands top of the table as it relates to the Chutney Soca Monarch. And of course, we know that the boy from Grandy, in terms of bringing his band and performing, he's looking to host and to come back to perform in Grandy. So look out for a big show coming up in Grandy as it relates. And of course, all genre of music, not just the chutney, the chutney soca, everything. So looking out for that big show in Grandy coming up. And yes, so back inside the Miaro Carnival Committee, I think that's not the formal name. The name is something cultural group as it relates to that. But basically, for our own understanding, we will go with that term, Miaro Carnival Committee. They had a public consultation on Thursday and indicated to the public some of their plans and wanted to get feedback from the community on some of their plans to tweak and how things can be done. So they are looking at a number of suggestions that came out in that consultation, and they indicated that they are trying to do it a little bit different with some stage management in terms of the junction and the whole show for the entire carnival, with a carnival village at the Edric Corner Park, a kids zone at the MCTV car park in the junction, and the actual stage in the junction itself 2023 as it relates to routes and parade and tripping along the streets. They'll be looking into that and getting back to the public. So we await and see how that goes. They also indicated that they would have not gotten releases thus far for Carnival 2023. And at the national level, there would have been some indication. Even the mayor of San Fernando would have indicated that he would not have gotten his releases as it relates to Carnival 2023 also. But what we do know as fact is that the state would have pledged to the NCC $147 million for Carnival 2023. So there is a committee in place in Miaro looking at, and also the bands, and last week I would have indicated and called on to listeners to go out of their way. Go out of your way as it relates to supporting the steel band movement within our community. As you know, we have cadenzas, and we have PYM Steel Orchestra, which is the Panhandle Youth Movement Steel Orchestra, led by Mr. Al Hughes, and of course, the Cadenza Steel Orchestra, led by Mr. Charles Hill. Let me clear up something here, listeners. Unfortunately, it have been stated, I don't know where from or where that information came, that for some reason, persons were stating and indicating that a gentleman who lives one gap space from the Cadenzas Steel Orchestra's yard that was given them over 20 years now for utilization, that is indicated in some way to prevent, because the fact that on December 10th, 2022, there was a fire at the Nurses Hostel, Old Post Office Road, for those who don't know, formal name Pierreville Street, Pierreville, Miaro. A fire would have damaged the hostel, and the hostel was playing host for over 15 years of Cadenza Steel Orchestra. And hence, the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services would have recommended that based on the structural damage due to the fire, that building or facility not be entered onto. And as such, Cadenzas and their organization would have solicited, and let me say it correctly, would have begged and have gotten some assistance in order to facilitate a shed to the front, on the front compound of the said. However, the bad news that was coming out was trying to sell to John public that if for some reason Mr. Wendell Perez was trying to stop the erection of some sort of housing for cadenzas and their instruments. Currently, listeners, cadenzas would have over $75,000 worth of instruments there. And those instruments are currently covered on the float, which is parked in the yard of the nurses' hostel there on the one way. And of course, is open to the elements. So in order to secure that $75,000 worth of instruments, and of course they have to be inspected. You do not know exactly what condition they are in, because coming out of the fire, they would have been removed and tried to be secured, but you don't know exactly what is the damage. So until some kind of housing is given to cadenzas so they can now inspect those instruments to see what are good or what are no longer viable in relation to same. So in no way does Wendell Perez have any powers to actually stop or to hinder the progress of that. And why would he do such, even though? And of course, that is not true. And those who are brandishing or giving out that information, ask them to please desist. Our tongue already have all its hiccups, and we don't need to add any more as it relates to that. Okay? So, again, for Carnival 2023, we have our two bands. One cadenzas led by Mr. Charles Hill, and of course the Panhandle Youth Movement led by Mr. Al Hughes, and the youngsters are practicing, and we're looking forward to have a great clash of the bands 2023. And of course, we are asking for support of both steel bands here in the community of Mayaro to come out and give that support to those bands. Please do so. So, at this time now, we're gonna play a little rudder and hear something called, the dust, because today, listeners, is a very bright and sunny day in the city of Mayaro. And we're gonna listen to King David Rudder putting some dust in their face.
From Mafeking to Rio Claro to Guayaguayare, through the coconuts of Manzanilla to the fine sands of Queens Beach. This is your station on the Eastern Peninsula, Mayaro Radio, taking Mayaro to the world.
I remember it's Kitchener's driver that caused this mix-up in this song. Every time you hear the word Toco, you move it and put the word Mayaro. Valencia is to blame. That Y in Valencia, the man driver took a left when he should have been taking a right.
Country district all the way up north. We hobby is playing music and drinking fish broth. We come from a country district all the way up north. Sometimes we just play music without any broth. We weathered the storm under pressure, then decided to form an orchestra. But the convoy said we must try again. We do cream to come for the Spain. We carry pan, they tell me so. You country done, go back to go. What they don't know, we pan is sweet, and the crowd just go for the Toco beat. It is because we found the country. If they should just look at their history, they know that we terribly strong. Physically, musically, oh gone. Toco band, coming down. We have a plan. Mash up town. Going to shade. Savannah, and even take. Panorama. We still band from Toco. We band up tomorrow. We ready for action in all competition. But now they are saying we shouldn't be competing. All kind of excuses. They can't stand the losses. I nearly forget to mention we have no panyard, no kind of accommodation. We really have it hard. For most of the time we gather alongside the sea and having to practice under a coconut tree. Oh God. But that hadn't stopped perseverance. No hazard disrupt our performance. So all who say we can't be pan, I know they want nothing with this band. Can't be pan, they tell me so. You country band. Go back to go. What they don't know, we pan is sweet, and the crowd just go for the Toco beat. They think because we found the country, yeah, have no musical background. If they should just look at their history, they know that we terribly strong. Physically, musically, oh gone. Toco band, coming down. We plan, mash up town. Going to shade, Savannah, and even take. Panorama. We still band from Toco, we band up tomorrow. We ready for action in all competition. But now they are saying we should be competing. All kind of excuses, they can't stand the losses. And now all around the island, people want to know how this little country steel band could play music so. Tell them we have an excellent tuner, a tuner of class, and a prolific arranger no one could surpass. Because we possess variation, we always get the best orchestration. So now you know and understand the secret of the Toco band. Can't be band, they tell me so. You country band, go back Toco. musically. Oh, gone. Togo band, coming down, how we plan, mash up town, going to share, Savannah, and even Panorama. We still band from Togo, we band of tomorrow, we ready for action, in all competition.
Yes, listeners, all you know the history and the importance of that song. Kitchener was on his way to Mayaro, and that song, when the song came out, that whole concept was a little while before, All right? That time we still had Amoko Radix, all right? Coxie and the crew, Amoko Radix, right there inside the cemetery. And Kitch was hearing about this band because remember the album from Amoko Radix and that situation. So Kitch decided, here's what's going on. I leave Indigo and I'm going up the road to hear them brothers under that coconut tree. So Kitch now lined the night before in Sparrow's hideaway. So Kitch decide I'll pull a driver to carry me up Miaro for me to go and listen to these brothers on this song. So what happened is that on the way up, Kitch having hung out by Sparrow's hideaway the night before, decided taking a little 5 on the drive, coming up to the city of Miaro is a long drive. And when Kitch's driver, who is not really familiar with the southeast side of the island, because you know them tongue men, anything past the lighthouse, they had to ask the directions. As you pass the lighthouse, them men from Digo had to ask directions. So when they got to Valencia, it wasn't like that roundabout right now by the police outpost. It was just a road and it made a Y. So Kitchener's driver, not being familiar with after the lighthouse, end up bearing left when he was supposed to bear right to head to the city of Miaro. So what happened is that Kitch end up in Toko. So the song was supposed to be the Miaro band, but he end up in Toko, dealt with the Toko people, and of course niceness, and the counselor for the area, met with Kitch up there and, niceness. So, bam, Kitch hands was tied. So the song came out, the Toko band, when it really was supposed to be the Miaro band. But I will not release the name of the driver of Kitch that bared left when you were supposed to bear right and end up in Toko, because we know that could have some problems. So we will let that die right there. And when we sing in the song, we will just say the Miaro band, hey, song then sweet, cadenzas and PYM, oh yes, throw in a beat. But, so we will let that slide. Listeners, on a more serious note, real serious note, and what is happening is really an opportunity that we must be aware of. Shell, who would have contracted an international company in terms of doing a feasibility study, a needs assessment, information gathering as it relates to our region, our community. And they would have reached out to persons, at the regional corporation, local government level, to organizations, labor organizations, village councils, sporting organizations, to get a feedback on what is happening. That is ongoing. And it's an open conversation. They also have engaged persons from the University of the West Indies to be part of putting together, as it relates, a sort of overview on our community and our region. However, I would like to share with persons is that when dealing with these multinational organizations and stuff, and in terms of information, to please, and this is an appeal, this is not an instruction, this is an appeal, to please think over 100 times. If you came with a thought, multiply that. Of course, as we would have learned, when we do multiply by 100, we add 2 zeros. So please multiply ever the scope of your thinking by at least 100. do not think in these small. Think sustainability, longevity, and think of adding overall value to the region and not just to your street or to your little organization that whose footprint may not even be legal, but and may be very small. Please think big, and then take that big thinking and multiply it by 100, and that is the concept in which you liaise with these persons. Front and center, we know that the employment issues within our region continues to be an issue that is always there, and the quick fixes of the 6-month employment is certainly not the answer. We are talking so that when you're thinking of, oh, they're doing a project and the project is going to last 18 months, how many persons from our region would get employed, and we want to get a percentage of locals employed on that thing. Now take that same thinking and add 2 zeros to that thinking. So we say in terms of, can your organization employ a local content policy that can be attached to contracts today and going forward? Can it be looked at in terms of sustainable employment? What would be the levels of sustainable employment after the initial phase of these projects? In other words, at the completion, as it relates, how many persons would be required in terms of the maintenance and continuation of the running of those plants or installations, and of course, whereby the same local content policy could be applied, and that kind of thing. So in other words, whatever you're thinking, nothing is wrong with that. That's great, that's good. However, we have to up the game in relating and dealing with these persons. We have to up the game, right? And find out how does that add to the gross domestic product as it relates to TNT, when the actual product would come on stream or come to land, whereby returns and stuff can be had. And stop the 6 months issue, and you're going good for 6 months. Every Friday you're hanging out in the junction. Every Friday you have 2 moccasin, 2 Guinness, or 2 beer in your hands one time, like if you have 2 mouths. And then at the end of the project in 6 months, you're back to zero. Okay? Let us, as I say, whatever you are thinking, multiply by 100 and think long term, think sustainability, all right? Think of adding value overall region and not just your little street or little area. Because they look at us as being so nice, because every few miles we drop a wall. Every few miles we build a wall, and we started to think of ourselves within that wall, hence saying that, thing. But if we take down all the walls, unify a position, and then come forth, it means that they have to take us a little bit more serious. Okay? So that's the concept as it relates to dealing all consultations, and especially when they're doing those feasibility studies. Because everyone can relate to the fact that, here's what, the road paving exercise has begun, but we cannot state categorically when the Miaro-Guayagari road will be started. I and we here on Seine Talk are working to get responses to questions like that, right? So that situation with that consultation, that needs assessment analysis that has been conducted or financed by Shell on our region and our community. I support participating in such, but just ask, suggest, beg of you to think 100 times more than whatever you're thinking, okay? So you don't want a kit of uniform. You want a sustainable 10-year plan to host a tournament as it relates to rugby, as it relates to netball, as it relates to coaching, and putting together a regional team to participate in the all sectors. That's what we want to think. We don't want to think a one-day tournament in one of the villages and end. No. We want to think continuation and growth and bigger than that. So that's the thinking as it relates to that. So now, added to that, Extremely important, because it's so sad. It is so sad that prominent citizens of our nation cannot find it within themselves to call a good thing, to be on board, and as such, they have implosion within themselves based on comments and sharing. Listeners, on Tuesday, the 24th of January, 2023, the greatest political entity in the Western Hemisphere would have celebrated 67 years. It was its 67th anniversary. At the same time, happening in the beautiful twin island of Republic of Trinidad and Tobago was the Energy Conference. The Energy Conference, whereby all the top producers, all the top international companies within the industry come to one place to discuss and chat about what's happening in the industry and the potential as it relates to Trinidad and Tobago. And of course, we have taken it even bigger now in terms of energy security for the region. Now, see how important that is? Energy security for the region, because what is happening? There's talk of increase in the electricity rates, and of course, water rates also. And we know what's happening with the grocery prices. And we know that the leader of the association in terms of grocery would have stated that even though there was a reduction in prices, where the problems are, that has not trickled down to us in the Caribbean, and hence we have not seeing any drops within prices at the groceries. All right, of course, it goes to choice, and the consumer always have that final choice of not to buy, chuck two dashing bush in the drain to the back of the house, but we'll leave that for another day. We're sticking on the 24th of January 2023 at the Energy Conference. The Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the Right Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley, would have come forward with an announcement on the 67th anniversary of the People's National Movement. That's something that he would have been working on even while in opposition, as the opposition leader, preparing to take the position of government, something that he would have been working on, that even though the unpatriotics would have called for sanctions against Trinidad and Tobago, yes, listeners, serious thing, persons who are wanting to see themselves as a viable option would have been calling for these world powers to take sanction against the same place that they're saying that they want to be in charge of. So in other words, they rather mash it up to come back to be in charge. But the Right Honorable Dr. the Honorable Keith Christopher Rowley would have been working on, and in terms of securing a position from the United States government as it relates to the operation of the Dragon Field, and a 2-year moratorium, because Trinidad and Tobago had requested 10 years. 10 years, because it would take a couple years for the product to come to shore in terms of the work, the laying of the pipeline. In fact, the overall logistics in terms of that kind of operation before the product comes to shore. And the United States of America, in fact, the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago and the Vice President Harris of the United States, right, would have spoken on that day, and that permission would have been granted. So in order for the thing to start, so that we could look at, and I mean that was a tremendous situation that came itself out of prudent and transformational leadership by the Prime Minister of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago to gain such a thing. That little dot who stood firm as it relates to Venezuela, whereby we don't get ourselves involved in independent nations in terms of that's their business, right? And we stood firm while others, we even the unpatriotics here in Trinidad and Tobago, wanted to recognize other persons in a sovereign land as the leaders of that land. Thank God for the government of the day that stood fast on law and in terms of the United Nations Charter to recognize who was in power. That today, the U.S. are walking back on some of their sanctions to Venezuela and have granted Trinidad and Tobago 2 years to work on that with the option to increase as it goes along. That is a tremendous and significant outcome in terms of hard work and diligence. And those who said that he was going on these trips to Lime and hang out and these comments, and what did he do? What did he bring for Trinidad and Tobago? We are seeing the results, the revised contracts as it relates, because during a certain time, the unpatriotics sold out as it relates, so we would not have gotten royalties and gains and taxes not until after 2024, you know. These same trips was to renegotiate those contracts with Trinidad and Tobago so that the people of Trinidad and Tobago can benefit. Here now, a situation is happening whereby Trinidad and Tobago can see some results going down the road. The namesayers are jumping out and making comments that is unbecoming. So are you patriotic? Are you a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago? Do you wish to see Trinidad and Tobago do well? That may be the question that those persons should be asked. Now, the announcement of that meant that persons were making statements, but it lends itself to a tremendous opportunity for the whole upstream and downstream sectors that relates to the whole gas economy of which we are. So the plants at Point Lisa, Trains 1, 2, and 3, and all of these things as it relates to bringing benefits to the people of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. But you all are crying, that was a tremendous and significant thing. And they were trying to play it down. Now, a citizen who is a member of parliament, who is also before the court, based on being charged for defrauding the state of $1 million, is the spokesperson to state that that situation is not a good one and that we're making a whole noise about nothing. How sad. And of all the persons the unpatriotics could get to condemn that announcement by the Prime Minister is someone who is before the courts. That is even more sad. And you know what? You know what is even, listeners, that is a tremendous on the anniversary of the birth of the People's National Movement, the announcement by the Honorable Prime Minister of that 2-year licenses granted by the United States government in order to pursue that Dragonfield project is tremendous. Tremendous. Don't matter if you're wearing a yellow jersey, a green jersey, a white jersey, right? It is tremendous. And you know what I was reminded of on Tuesday, January 24th, because it started on Tuesday, January 24th, 1956, you know. A Tuesday also, you know, I was reminded that Trinidad and Tobago history, in terms of the most significant things in the existence of Trinidad and Tobago, is really and actually the history of the People's National Movement. You know, that was confirmed on Tuesday. Most of the entire significant thing in the development of Trinidad and Tobago is actually PNM history. And a couple years ago, the opening of the Red House after all these years, again, was January 24th. So significant as it is, some persons were trying to play down. However, when I saw on TV6, when you heard Mr. Devont Maraj, and I was saying, am I sleeping or am I dreaming? And listeners, listeners, when I heard, when I heard in another person who was a former senator of Indian Patriotics make some statements, I had to listen twice or three times to confirm. So one of these things, we must be able to take away those colors, those red and yellow, the mustard or ketchup situation, and see Trinidad and Tobago, the red, white, and black. And I want to share with you, listeners, I want to share with you this at this time.
What's happening?
Yeah, but and Ian, we said this morning when we were speaking. There comes a time where you can't have everything being yellow and red, right?
True.
The country is red, white, and black. And sometimes, the government of the day has always said they are very patriotic, and the opposition is not patriotic. But there are some times that we must be able to put the politics aside and say this is something that will benefit us all as a country. And people, yes, it will always have the politics. They will always have favoritism for some and disadvantage to others. But this is something that has been worked on for years, that people have not been able to manage to bring to just a conclusion where we could say Trinidad and Tobago could benefit. And nobody can deny that. The PNM was in power under Patrick Manning, they couldn't do it. The UNC was under power in Kamala Prasad, they said they couldn't do it. And for what is worth, I am not a big supporter of Dr. Rowley, but at the end of the day, the man has been able to do something that nobody else was able to do, right? And at the end of the day, you have a pipeline to build, you have the arrangements to work out, you have to find out how we could pay the people to get the gas, what arrangements are going to be put in place. But the announcement that the Prime Minister has made is one that can be of great benefit to the country. And we should try and say, listen, this is Trinidad and Tobago. Let me put Trinidad and Tobago first.
Sure. But again, what people were asking, is it that maybe in a year or a year and a half, we're going to see things happening like this place is going to get better, similar to what we've seen in Guyana? I'm just asking questions that I'm getting during the course of the day.
Listen, we went through a recession between 1995 and 2000. And Mr. Manning took over government in 2000 and 2002.
Right when he built Sapa and Napa and
there was because of exactly what took place, because of the geopolitics at that time, we were a country that was producing natural gas. The price of natural gas.
Right.
The price of natural gas was almost $12 per MMBTU, and Mr. Manning, you saw the development here, and we saw the development in the country. The waterfront was built, Napa was built, Snapper was built. You saw tremendous, the government plaza was built. We saw tremendous development.
People were employed.
And we have to understand that at the end of the day, let us hope that the government will use this opportunity when the time comes and we are able to do this, that the right arrangements can be put in place. Dr. Rowley said when he made the announcement, they have a lot of lawyers involved acting on behalf of the government to ensure that Trinidad has gotten the best deal that was possible. But at the end of the day, let us be thankful that God has smiled on Trinidad again.
Wow.
And we have another boom. In the 1970s we had it, in the 2000s, the early 2000s we had it, and look, things have just worked out as a consequence of the geopolitics. We're back in a position where Trinidad could be what it always has the potential to be, which is a leader on the world stage, no matter how small we are. And at the end of the day, give credit to the people who have made this happen.
Mr. Ramdeen, I want to tell you thanks for putting everything together for me today. Thanks. I really appreciate it.
And the other thing is, like Dr. Rowley said, let us not jump the gun, but this is the opening of a door that could see a lot of potential because Dragon is one field, Lauren Manatee is another field. We might have other developments and other relations with Venezuela. But at the end of the day, let us take it one step at a time, see what the government does. But I am very happy as a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago that the government of the day has been able to bring to the table something that nobody else was able to do. And at the end of the day, Dr. Rowley has been the leader of the government at that point in time, and you have to give the man credit for that.
Because I know when he went to Germany, I mean, everybody said it was a Mamagai trip, a Mamagai energy trip. But you know, I remember people said that. I have newspaper
Well,
clippings and whatnot.
I also remember when there were criticisms of Dr. Rowley when people said he went to Germany as leader of the opposition. What he doing in Germany, meeting with people in Germany when he was leader of the opposition, and the man gave them the right answer, which is simply that he was preparing to go into government and doing the right things to get into government. If you want to sit as an opposition and be satisfied to sit down as an opposition and remain there as an opposition because you have your only ambition to go into government or your only plan to go into government is to criticize the government, don't get better. We hope the government fail and we go automatically by default fall into 2010 not going to happen again just like that, you know. This is a significant step that we'll see. This could see if this thing is managed properly and the country is managed properly.
I said that, that's the exact what I said yesterday.
The opposition might not see government again for another 20 years, you know. And you let them go in. Have you seen any opposition MP? I want to ask you something.
Yes.
You have been at the energy conference. I know you are at the energy conference this week. The energy conference is the one place where all the multinationals come together. All the plans for development are being discussed. All the high-level executives are there. Have you seen one government MP in the energy conference for this week?
Opposition,
you ever see that?
No, none.
But what does that tell you? What does that tell you? Does that characterize a group of people who are in waiting to go into government, who have an appetite to say we want to get into government? Does that really say that?
Yeah, Cynthia, go ahead.
No, but that is the point. And if at the end of the day, right, you can only criticize people, right, when you have something better to offer, you know.
True, Mr. Ramdeen, but again,
listen. Yes, we need to develop the country. We need to have diversification. We need to do all of these things. But at the end of the day, what brings dollars and cents into the country, notwithstanding all of this about climate change, at this point in time, gas and oil is what brings money into the coffers of Trinidad and Tobago. Right? That is what we are. Right? And that is what is moving us forward. Even though the whole world is moving in a different direction. Yes, we have to diversify and we have to get plans to become more green. And Dr. Rowley talking about wind energy and all these things. But at this point in time, right, while the grass is green, the cow can be starving.
True. Well, I really hope.
And you don't see, what I can say objectively is that I don't see, right, I was a member of the opposition in the Senate, right, and it is a shame for me to say that this kind of development is going on. All you could hear from the opposition is criticism. Not a plan of how we could do it better. What arrangements we would have had. What we would have done. How we could have accomplished this. Right? Or anything, any idea to bring on the table and say, well, you know, the government has said they're going to do this, but perhaps they should consider this. Have you heard that from anybody? You got to fix your own house before you try to fix somebody else, you know, Mr. Allen.
Well, I'm fully aware of that. Mr. Ramdeen, I'm fully aware of that.
And that is the position.
And just as you said, I am being very honest with you. I'm fascinated. I'm excited. I mean, after attending just going and hanging around and whatnot, and now understanding the role and the position where we are now, I mean, in a better place. And I'm wanting you to just get up and things just things just turn around like that. I'm really happy. I'm happy for Trinidad and Tobago. I'm happy for everybody. I look forward to going back to Point Lisa's and
Yes, listeners, that of course was former UNC candidate for St. Augustine, Mr. Ian Allen, and former UNC Senator, Mr. Joel Ramdeen. And my brother online, Cross Boss, I actually agree with you as it relates to the refinery, comrade. Because of the way in which the industry was going at the time, as you know, Trinidad and Tobago is not a price maker, but actually a price taker. I the decisions at the time was based on the industry standings internationally, whereby here it was not feasible to continue. However, had we bite the bullet as it relates to the refinery at Pointe-à-Pied, today, comrade, we would have been, oh my gosh, swimming in it. We would have been swimming in it. So I agree with you, and yes, and I wish to clear up something now. Yes, I am a member of the People's National Movement. That is not a secret. So it's not that, as my friend is trying to state there, I am a member of the People's National Movement. But fact is fact. And I agree with you. If we should get a partner and open that refinery right now, today, based on the current world prices and what is happening, and based on our own production here in Trinidad and Tobago, we could make some. So I agree with you that an extra effort and an extra push should be made by the government of the day to get a operating partner, so someone to get that refinery up and running at this time, so that the country can reap the benefits of that. That is a great point, comrade. So, great point. If that refinery is running at this time, not only from a position of employment, yet also a position of resources to TNT that would come with the operation of that refinery, and of course, the reduction of gas prices. So in terms of the reduction of production in Trinidad and Tobago, and of course we hope that that will be passed down to consumers. So that is fantastic, and we should, I think, and I hope, and actually I feel that that is happening, that we are truly trying to speed up and look for a partner, because even though the refinery is mothballed at this time, to restart the refinery would take a significant injection of capital, and of course you would have to do shutdowns and some testing that it would take a while for it to come back up and running. So the longer you take to start it back up, the harder it becomes and the more costly it becomes to start up. So I agree with that. So I really feel that in the background they are working assiduously, because right now is the right time. And of course, coming out of the energy conference, they are talking about production coming out of Ghana, if some would be sent to Trinidad and Tobago for refining, because at the level of the government of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, the talk is energy security for the region, not just Trinidad and Tobago. So in terms of that dragon field, and you would have heard former Senator Ramdeen stated just now there, the door opening for more and greater collaborations that could bring results. So that is the position. So I just wanted to make sure that us here in this region understand what is happening, and sometimes don't turn off the TV when you're seeing the highlights coming out of the energy conference and listening to Mr. Thackeray and all the others. It impacts right down to the market this morning out here in this bright, sunny, hot sun, Saturday morning here in the city of Miaro. It impacts you. It impacts how quick, we make that noise for the repair of the Miaro-Guaigari Road. The situation with our students in terms of traversing, of getting transportation to get to school, particularly to Princestown East, to Manzanilla Secondary, right? So all those are tied in, and we are becoming now that we must see that relationship and that tie-in of everything that is happening in the oil and gas sector and the role that we in this region play. We just talk it, but we don't feel it and we don't show it, Right? So, because when I made a statement many, many years ago, when they wanted to do that smelter plant down Chatham, and it was turned down, saying that, the possibility of what it would have done. I made this statement, I sent letters to some of the dailies to be printed. All right, I was not actually within the ruling organizations at that time, and I asked that why we can't come and put that here in Mayaro. There is, state land as it relates from former Petrochin, come straight up all the way, straight up the Grand Lagoon. So why, if they're having some problems down there, come on, let's put it here. All right? So today, you can imagine if we had that smelter anyhow. So, cross-bus, point taken, and great comments, comrade, great comments. Yes, great comments. But Trinidad and Tobago first, country before party, always, all right? And great comments, comrade, great comments. So, good news and it relates to football. The Trinidad and Tobago, they're having some games coming up. Also, there's some introduction of some new tournaments coming 2024. And for both men and women, so our senior team will have something to aim at, to look forward to. And we hope that the support in terms of putting together the teams from long before. We are already in 2023, so we're already late. So the fact that the introduction of these new tournaments, that collaboration between CONCACAF and, it slips me at this time, and those tournaments will be held in the U.S., so it's great, and hope that we could start working on that, the pending start of a national league also. Going back to the drawing board, bring the areas and the people of the areas into the football. So it's not when you name a team, the team have 11 players on the field, and 11 of them are from 11 different areas in TNT. But let's start, representing your area so that you can bring your people with you and boost the game again so that we can take it back to the level. Because we are a little bit behind. 2 years, no football. And we're looking to qualify for those tournaments come 2024. And continue to produce players like what is Mr. Garcia is doing in Europe. And, Levi Garcia, top player Europe from our region here last month. And so that we could continue to produce high-quality players, but also bring back the game, which we know that our community and our region is best at. Also, cricket is starting. Guayagari will be one of the grounds utilized by the zones for cricket. Support our team, support the guys, support anything that relates to sport. That's a good thing. Special congratulations and welcome to the region, to the new CMOH, attached to the Eastern Regional Health Authority, to the new CMOH. Welcome to the region, and we hope that you show yourself in bringing good work to our region as it relates to all the responsibilities that fall under your charge. Yes, listeners, yes, ladies and gentlemen, coronavirus has not gone anywhere, and we continue to exercise good prudence and, of course, take that self-responsibility. Continue to wash your hands, continue to avoid crowds if you can, and try to be outside and in fresh air if you're in areas where there are crowds, right? So that's a great thing. Looking forward to it. So what has happened over the week here? Again, condolences out to the brother Stout and the whole Adolphus family and all those who have lost loved ones and will have laid to rest this week and over the weekend here. Condolences to you and the family. And let's just put some love in our heart. And of course, I must say it over and over. Please support the national instrument of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago in your community in terms of Mayaro Cadenzas and PYM Steel Orchestras, the Panhandle Youth Movement Steel Orchestra. Please reach out and try to help. These brothers need help in everything. And no assistance is too small, and of course, none is too big. So to help these brothers in terms of keeping that instrument in our region and our community alive, and we look forward to the Clash Carnival Day. So, Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, listeners, let's support our nation. Let's support our leaders. Let's ask, for for God's continued guidance and blessings, because every time we look like we're coming to the end, He makes a way. He makes a way. And for those namesayers and those unpatriotics and those in negativity, sorry, but we want the power of prayer and positive thinking to overshadow you and the negativity so that things would go in a particular way. But let's always stand ready here. And again, as it relates to multiplying your thoughts by 100. Think regional and think of the development of the entire region and not self and small and minute. Remove the walls within each of our villages and that thinking, all right? And we would fare better. I assure you, we will fare better. Of course, we know with the introduction of the dry season, which would have started a while back, but we still had the rains and stuff and the high sea bulletins. Fisher folk is back out. The season has changed. And, that's coming to now their time and coming to Carnival and after Carnival with lots of visitors in our nation. So, Bodo, Dr. Rosefish, duckies, everybody, get ready. This is the time. Up your game, the surroundings, in terms of, having it clean and serene and selling your region and your community. Let's take away all the badness, show more love, care for one another within our region, so that it can grow. And all the best to all on this day. And of course, we're going out with sweet, sweet TNT, but we must play our part. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you here next week. Seine Talk, tell a friend, tell a friend, tell a friend. Seine Talk out for the day as we go with Natasha Wilson. And upcoming, we'll have a special delivery for you. So don't change that dial. Stay tuned. And thank you for tuning in for Seine Talk today. We